The first bill that we're going to hear is going to be Senate Bill 1548. And with that, could you please give us an overview?
Thank you. And just for the record, you're opening the public hearing.
Oh, yeah. See, that's why you're here. Thank you, Ms. Whitney. I am opening a public hearing on Senate Bill 1548. And Ms. Whitney, could you give us an overview, please?
Yes, thank you. Senate Bill 1548 is brought to us by Senator Thatcher, Senator Steiner, and Senator Wagner. We previously had an informational on this bill on February 6th. You can find the informational submitted on the informational also on OLIS. Senate Bill 1548 just briefly abolishes the annual 1 hour change in time from standard time to daylight savings time and maintains standard time for all 12 months of the calendar year for the portion of Oregon that is located in the Pacific time zone.
Okay, and with that, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people who testify. But we'll begin with Senator Thatcher. Senator Thatcher, please. Seems kind of odd that you're on that side of the table.
Well, I had to look you all in the eye. There we are. Okay, for the record, my name's Kim Thatcher. I represent Senate District 11. All right, so just sort of confusing because we had not a public hearing, but an informational hearing where a lot of people spoke. And here we are today with a public hearing. I don't know who's showing up actually, but you can check out your written testimony. There's quite a bit. And I would like to point out that there was some testimony submitted by Senator Steiner, who was, I think, the lone no vote on the floor when we voted to try to adopt daylight saving time permanently. Okay, so I have probably, like many of you, just hear these constant refrain from people like, why is this time switch still a thing? Why are we still doing this? Let's just pick a time. And back in 2019, there were a lot of people that said, hey, let's keep daylight saving time year round. And so in 2019, Senate Bill 320 passed, the governor signed it, but the catch was that we either had to get permission from the Department of Transportation as a state, which wasn't super likely all by ourselves, or Congress would give permission. And at the time, there was some momentum toward adopting the ability for states to go to permanent daylight saving time. So it was thought that if we worked as a block of Pacific Coast states, Washington, California's, actually their voters voted on a proposition that would allow for either going to daylight saving time or permanent standard time. And they overwhelmingly supported it. But in California, they're a little different. And their assembly and their Senate had to act upon it, and they didn't. And it was kind of disappointing. We were a little perplexed. That just wasn't coming together. So Washington came through with if Oregon and California, and we came through with if Washington and California, all that type of thing, we would go together and we would go petition the correct bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., and we would more likely get that permission to go to permanent daylight saving time, but that's not happening. In fact, so that legislation depended on all 3 states entering into it. California didn't come through, like I said, and we would have to get permission from the federal government. And this bill would give us 10 years to wait for that approval as we got the pact together. So what's happening now is there's less and less support happening in Congress and in California for going to permanent daylight savings time, and those reasons I will get into in a bit. So right now, Congress has fewer sponsors of the Sunshine Act, I think is what they called it, than they have in previous congressional sessions. And additionally, several U.S. senators, the rumor goes, are telling the nonprofits in private that they will not permit Senator Rubio's bill to request another vote, Senator Rubio to request another voice vote to advance this legislation to go to permanent daylight savings time. And although there are people who would rather have daylight saving time be permanent, we actually have a history of doing that in the United States. Once I think they talked about World War I, World War II, but then most recently in 1974, when President Nixon, we had an energy crunch, and it was thought that if we switched to permanent daylight saving time, we would save energy. Well, that didn't really come through, and it actually, people hated it. And after 6 months, it was repealed. It was supposed to be in place for 2 years. So here we are today with a bill to go for the portion of the state, which is most of the state other than Far East, that's within the Pacific Standard Time, make that permanent. So one of many reasons have come to light as to why we would rather, as a nation, as people, choose standard time than permanent daylight saving time. It's going to permanent daylight saving time is even worse than switching twice a year, if you can imagine, according to the sleep experts, the medical people, and all these many studies that have ensued in after this motion and momentum to go to daylight saving time permanently has been brought forward. We've all heard about the increase in accidents and tiredness and even heart attacks during the time period when we do the switch, which is coming up March 10th, I believe. There are serious disruptions in our circadian rhythms. There are many reasons why going to standard time and sticking to that is the superior option health-wise. So I hope you can support Senate Bill 1548 today and the back and forth switch. Why standard time rather than daylight saving time? Well, one of the big reasons is we don't have to ask permission from the federal government. We don't have to say, Mother, may I, as a state, can we just stick with the standard time? Arizona is on standard time, and so is Hawaii. In fact, Mexico has been on standard time for about 100 years now. We would not have to wait for that permission. And if in the future people decide that we really want to look at the daylight saving time again, we can approach that. If that's an option by the time time has time. We're talking a lot about time, but time has passed and the federal government has given that permission. We could revisit it. But until then, we can ditch the switch this November and just stay on standard time year round. And there are many supporters, like I mentioned, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the American Medical Association, the Canadian coordinates of that, both those organizations, National Sleep Foundation, Sleep Research Society. I don't know about you, but I like my sleep. So I'm hoping that you can support not disrupting our biological clocks and sticking with standard time. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks.
Thank you. Questions from Senator Thatcher from the committee? Seeing none?
You're not even going to hassle me? Come on, gee, I thought you liked me.
We'll wait till the work session to do that then.
Oh, okay, all right, thanks.
All right, so I'm going to pause this. So I can bring,
Temporary close it.
I'm going to temporarily close the work session, the public hearing on Senate Bill 1548 and open a work session on, public hearing on Senate Bill 1567. And so we are going to revert to the business as usual, or from the beginning, or almost at the beginning. So I am going to temporarily pause the hearing on Senate Bill 1567, public hearing, and I'm going to reopen the public hearing on Senate Bill 1548. And I am going to bring up in panels two at a time here. We are asked that you kind of keep your comments, your testimony short because of time constraint. We have a lot of people lined up to testify. So the first two people I'm going to bring up is Steve Calandrillo and Aileen Kaye. Hope I didn't butcher your name too bad. You know, I'm a soldier, and you know that's what soldiers wind up doing. They butcher names.
I'm used to it, believe me.
Okay. So first we have via video, Steve, if you would please give your name and then begin your testimony.
Sure. Thank you so much. I don't mind if anyone butchers my name. My dad was a soldier too. I'm Steve Calandrillo. I am a professor at the University of Washington School of Law in Seattle. You can see I'm enjoying our beautiful sunny liquid sunshine day here in Seattle. So I really thank you for hosting this open hearing. I have long talked about daylight saving time versus standard time and the safety issues involved in both. I started publishing about daylight saving time about 20 years ago, mostly because I noticed that we did not want to really be wasting daylight at the end of the day when 99% of the population is awake and moving around at 5 or 6 p.m. when that sun sets in the winter months. You know, nobody really appreciates the darkness, but more important than nobody appreciates darkness. Darkness kills, and darkness is about 2 to 3 times more deadly in the evening hours than it is in the morning hours. There is about a 300% spike in car accident risks. You know, I really open presentation of the bill, the public hearing of the bill, about the safety risks of
Okay, we're experiencing
from what was presented. 8 meta-studies. Sorry?
We're experiencing some drop zones and stuff.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me see if I can fix that. I don't know if that's going to be. Is it getting better for you or getting worse?
Right there is fine.
Don't move.
Okay, I'm going to try to move indoors. And instead of giving you liquid sunshine, I'll give you indoor sunshine.
Fair enough.
I was just out with my child because I'm taking care of my child today because he's sick. And I was out trying to make sure he was okay. But let me bring in him. And now I'm more indoors. And so hopefully we'll get a little bit of a better signal here. You know, the car accident risk, the fatality risk, mostly to pedestrians and also bicyclists at sunset is about 300% higher than the hour before sunset. And it was Ben Franklin first who satirically proposed daylight saving time hundreds of years ago because he realized that, you know, when the sun came up at 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, not a lot of people were awake. Oh, it looks like I might have gotten disconnected again. I hope I did not get disconnected.
Are you fine?
Okay, good, awesome. And so, you know, he wrote this satirical article in Paris called The Waste of Daylight, talking about how we need to move daylight into the portion of the day when 99% of the population is awake. You know, the 5 p.m. hour, the 6 p.m. hour. That evening rush hour kills 3 times as many people as the morning rush hour does because there's more people on the road, there's more kids enjoying outdoor unsupervised play, there's more alcohol in drivers' bloodstreams, people are rushing to get home. And by pushing daylight into the evening hours, that's what daylight saving time does, we can actually dramatically reduce the number of fatalities on our roads. And so Coate and Markowitz did a study 20 years ago. They studied 8 different traffic fatality studies, 8 different meta-studies that found that there was 400 fewer deaths per year on the roads, drivers, bicyclists, pedestrians, if we could push the hour of sun into the evening hours instead of the morning. Now we do that 8 months of the year on daylight saving time. So daylight saving time is already kind of our standard time. People prefer to live their lives in the evening hours. They don't live their lives at 6 a.m. They live their lives at 6 p.m. At 6 a.m., you still have half of the population asleep. And if we move to year-round standard time, which had been now proposed in Washington, although that bill got defeated, thankfully, you would have sunrise at 4 a.m. in the summer. I don't know about you, But I don't wake up at 4 a.m. Anybody's got teenage kids like I do, I don't think they've seen the sunrise in years, but they do see the sunset. And it's important to have the sunset be later. Now, I know that the circadian rhythms and sleep scientists say, well, you want to have the sunset be earlier. But if you're looking at the difference between 5 or 6 p.m. or 7 p.m., you are looking at a difference of when many, many hundreds of thousands or millions of people are out and about, and you can save hundreds of lives per year. And by the way, for everyone, sorry, I'll wrap. You want to wrap up?
Yeah, could you please?
Sure. You're looking at maybe 100-fold the number of hospitalizations from having standard time all year round compared to daylight saving time year round. Now, the critics are right about the ditch the switch. Critics are right that there are health risks from the switch. The switch, I don't think, is a great thing, but we are much better off having 8 months of evening sun than having 0. So I beg you to do just like Washington did and defeat their permanent standard time bill. We are much better with permanent daylight saving time. But if we can't have permanent daylight saving time, we are better with 8 months of daylight saving time. Thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions afterwards if you wish, but I apologize for going over.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes, Ms. Keys, Ms. Kaye. I'm sorry. I got a lot of words.
That's okay.
Yeah, we'll get there. Could you state your name, please?
My name is Aileen Kaye. I live in South Marion County. Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, and members of the committee, my testimony will be shorter than his, although I agree with him wholeheartedly. I love daylight saving time. I have a party in the spring when we get back on daylight saving time to celebrate. To me, it's really infuriating to have to testify about a bill this huge that affects every person in Oregon every day. And many people don't even know this is happening. And if they've heard about it, they have no clue what daylight saving time means versus standard time. They don't know which means more light in the evening and et cetera. I just don't think that this should be heard in a short session. It's too major of a change for us. And it'll put us out of sync with all but 2 states. It'll cause confusion. In 2019, talk about ditch the switch. This is a huge switch because Senator Thatcher is the one who had the bill in 2019, which I did testify for and help pass for permanent daylight saving time. But unfortunately, because of Congress, it didn't work. But if somebody commutes from the state of Washington, which many do, to Portland, from Vancouver to Portland, it's going to be a huge mess. In 2019, there were provisions that Oregon's law would not change unless California and Washington passed the same bill. I don't see that provision in this bill unless there's been an amendment that I haven't seen yet. So it's going to cause massive confusion and inconvenience. Changing of the clocks to me is not a big deal at all. In fact, in the fall when we fall behind, I think it's really fun that we all get what we all call that. What are you going to do with your extra hour? I don't find that anything horrible, the clock change. So I really do think that hearing this bill during this short session is a misuse of time and tax dollars. So I'm hoping you will not pass this bill out of committee. Thanks.
Thank you. Question from the committee to any other panelists?
Just to kind of answer the question that was raised, there is no pact with the other states, though that could be added, and that's it.
Okay.
There's discussion back and forth on whether we wanted to do that. In working with Washington and California and Idaho legislators, we decided we wouldn't start out with that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next we're going to have to really hold you to,
2 minutes?
2 minutes, because we've got a lot of testimony. So the next panel, we're going to do with Joan Peters and Connor Farron.
You also have JP. You also have JP.
Okay. So we got three then.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have all three come up. So JP is
He's remote.
remote.
Yes, sir. Hello. Good morning.
Morning. Could you please state your name and begin your testimony? We're asking everybody to limit to 3 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chair Manning, Vice Chair Thatcher, committee members. It's good to be here and speak with you again. My name is Mr. JP. Last name is spelled PEA. I am the president of Safe Standard Time. We're a 501c4 nonprofit. I'm also the co-chair of the Coalition for Permanent Standard Time, working with the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the Society for Research on Biological Rhythms, the National Sleep Foundation, and the Sleep Research Society. I'm here to ask for your support on SB 1548. We want to end the clock change, and we want to make sure we stick to permanent standard time, not permanent daylight time. Permanent standard time is the honest to God real time defined by where the sun is positioned in the sky. It's your sundial time. It fairly balances light across the morning and the evening to fit all lifestyles, and it's supported by history as the most sustainable way, as in the most lasting popularity for ending clock change. It's shown by science to be the healthiest and safest way for commuters, for people who need to work outdoor, like farmers or construction, for children learning in school, and for everybody's just productivity in the workplace. This is the wide consensus of dozens of nonprofits. There might be one or few detractors who might pick out one or two studies, but really there are hundreds of studies showing that permanent standard time is the better way to go. I'm really impressed to see there's over 100 statements submitted online to your committee in support of this bill. I want to mention that the Washington bill was not defeated, as was said by a mistaken earlier witness. It is stalled, but not defeated. There is a bill for permanent standard time coming forward in California that is doing very well, and we have bills in Illinois, New York, states across the country. The permanent daylight time was tried before, and it failed. People need morning light to wake up and feel good. And if you like daylight time, daylight saving time, I would implore you just to wake yourself up earlier and let the rest of us sleep later for health. I'm from Iowa. I'm the grandson of farmers. I now live in Arizona, though, and we love permanent standard time here. Friends and family who visit tell us how much they love it. I'm sure that your state will love it too, and other states will follow you into permanent standard time. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. I have a wealth of knowledge on this, doing a lot of research on this, and I thank you again so much for your time today.
Thank you. We have Connor Farron, who's also remote. Connor, are you there?
I don't think he's there.
Not there. Okay, so let's move on. Ms. Peters.
Yes. Hello,
Yes.
Chair Manning and Vice Chair Thatcher. Senator Thatcher said many of the things that I had kind of prepared, the historical aspect of it. A couple things that I want
Could
to
you
add.
state your name for the record?
Oh, I'm Joan Peters.
Thank you.
Thank you. Permanent or daylight saving time was expanded during the George Bush administration with the during the War on Terror. It happened in 2005, and it was the daylight saving time was expanded, so it started earlier in March, which is more close to what we're going to be experiencing on March 10th, and then it was extended at the other end also. The Sunshine Protection Act, I feel, is a misnomer because it implies to the electorate that Congress is protecting our sunshine, and it's a misnomer because nobody is protecting the sunshine. The sunshine is not changing, it's just coming at a different part of the day. So, and when it did pass in the Senate, it was by unanimous consent on March 15th, 2022. But what happened is 2 days later, BuzzFeed News reported that many of the senators were unaware of the request for uniform consent, as it is a frequent occurrence for legislative staff to vet the requests themselves to decide if an issue is too benign or obviously doomed to bother their boss with. So therefore, it was passed without actual exploration of what it all meant. There's a lot of research for and against, and I'm not a person to really address know what there is to believe, but the National Bureau of Economic Research revealed that the policy to encourage saving more energy, daylight saving time, does not help with that. This is okay. As far as voter polling and voting, as many as 75% of Americans favor no longer changing the clocks, that a standard time should be fixed and permanent, and for all the reasons, the health reasons, and all that kind of thing. Subsequently, voters were given the opportunity to weigh in on what they would prefer, permanent daylight saving time or standard time. In 2018, California voters by 60% voted for permanent daylight savings time. After the vote in California in 2019, the legislatures in Washington and Oregon followed suit and approved it without asking the voters. So in other words, the California voters chose for Oregon and Washington, which I didn't appreciate. So this is what I personally think happens. There is so much mythology around what daylight savings time is, how it came about, etc. And what happens is, especially with baby boomers think of daylight savings time because we think of our childhood, we think of summer vacation, no school, play and fun. And I think there's a lot of people who believe daylight saving time gives people more summer, more time for leisure and fun activities. But our modern day challenges, we have mental health issues, depression, suicide, drug addiction, homelessness. We're tired and exhausted workforce. We have transportation issues. We have air traffic controllers who have to monitor what happens at our airports. We have a muted pandemic recovery and economic recovery. We have decreased success in school performance of our children. An electorate is being fed from...
Ms. Peters?
Oh, do I have to? Oh, I gotta wrap it up.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
okay. What to do from here? This is my idea for what to do from here. Since we have already tried out in 1974 permanent daylight savings time and it failed awfully, I think what needs to happen is we have to have an experiment with permanent standard time. And I would propose that, which is kind of what Senator Hatcher was referring to, that would be a way in which to proceed. And so the voters could actually know what it feels like to have permanent standard time, because we don't know. Nobody knows what it would be like to have permanent standard time, because I have no recollection of ever having permanent standard time. I only remember the change, the time change. And I think the time change is destructive. And since 1974, we do know that permanent daylight savings time did not work. So that would be what I would like to see happen.
Thank you. Questions for committee, from the committee? Thank you very much. And I think that Connor was not on. All right, so with that, I am going to close the public hearing on Senate Bill 1548.